Welcome to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, dedicated to exploring the interesting journeys of the people in the provincial construction industry. Presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds. Join us as we chat with the inspirational individuals that ensure the continued growth of the construction industry and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
And welcome to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast. Here we are, second day of this conference, and it has been fantastic so far. It's always good to be in conversation with people that are doing great things in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm Alan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy, Jerry Carew. Jerry, this company that we're going to talk to next is part of the fabric of Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Airlines. Stephen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Stephen Short. I'm with PAL Airlines, and I'm a Director of Business Development.
Right, so you just didn't start life there, mate. How did you get there?
I didn't. So graduated Mon with Commerce years ago, probably more years than I'd care to admit at this point. I started with PAL back in 2014. I started as a sales associate in Labrador, of all places, and I was a East End townie. Grew up in Portugal Cove, moved to the East End, so anything past the overpass was a bit foreign. Yeah. At the time, you came out into a market which was red hot. You had everyone moving home from Alberta, Ontario. Oil was just booming, and people were taking junior jobs to just get home. Mm-hmm. So you had to fight. And for a position, anyways, job came up. It was posted for Wabush, Labrador, with at the time Provincial Airlines, PAL Airlines, and I said, you know what, those guys they do some cool stuff. I've traveled with them before. They seem to be growing. Went over and just hit it off, and I said, you know what odds? 6 months, I'll either not enjoy it or they'll not enjoy me, right. And we'll see. So I moved, packed up. I had a pickup. I was living in my mother's basement, had a Skidoo, put it in my truck, and here we are 8.5 years later.
That was an important piece of equipment, eh? A Skidoo.
You got to have that in Labrador. So it's been a fabulous ride. Sort of progressed up through the ranks in sales department, from sales associate, account manager. Spent some time in the charters department, and now I focus on business development with some divisions within our company. So it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of growth. I started at PAL. We had 750 in the total PAL group. I think we had about 750 employees. Now we're at about 1,500.
Wow. That's amazing. Sorry for cutting
you off. It is, yeah. No.
I don't think people in Newfoundland realize how big PAL is. Like 1,500 employees is huge.
It's exceptional, and we've got operations all over the world. Trinidad, Tobago, Curacao, across Canada, growing into the Netherlands now on the aerospace side of things. Everybody thinks we're to flight to Goose Bay. Yeah. But that flight to Goose Bay is so critical for what we do. My time in Labrador was fabulous, and that's how I sort of transitioned into the construction industry and my connections to the construction industry.
Yeah, so take us to that journey then.
Yeah. You can't help but, when you work in Labrador, you're around natural resource projects. And at the time, unfortunately, when I went to Labrador West, the iron ore market had dropped. I think the lowest it hit was $17 a ton for iron ore. Everybody up there can remember it well. It goes in cycles, but you learn about crew rotations, you learn about manpower schedules, you learn about construction schedules. And a lot of our clients, of course, work at these major mines, IOC, Takora, and across the border in Bloom Lake, ArcelorMittal on Labrador West. But at the time, I then transitioned over. Muskrat Falls was very busy, and we were a key supplier for that. We were providing the workforce. We were getting the workforce to and from, and I learned a lot about logistics management. So I worked on the project from PAL's perspective. I was probably on site 4 days a week, working with different contractors. As I said to someone last night, to understand what they need, you've got to understand construction schedules. You've got to understand the manpower schedules, and you've got to understand how their site works, because when we back up, they back up. So ensuring that on-time capability, that on-time performance, and that capacity that they need exists. So when I go back to the office and say, guys, here's what they need from charter, here's what they need from commercial flight, here's what they need from cargo, and you put together a full solution. And that's really where it built. Wow. Sort of my foray into the construction side of things.
So your PAL's obviously a member of NLCA.
Indeed.
You must work hand in glove together to meet the demands of the construction industry, to get people on time to get to work, right?
We do. We really, probably about 5 years ago, we're involved with boards of trade, chambers of commerce. We are involved in the community. We identified some key sectors where it was important to us, but also we were important to them, and we sort of doubled down on our relationship with the NLCA. It's membership here. They've got a really strong membership. The industry itself is critical to Newfoundland and Labrador. It's infrastructure. We are a rural province. There will be need for infrastructure, both vertical and horizontal. And at the time, they were looking for a representative from Labrador to sit on the board of directors. I stepped up. I threw my hat in the ring and said, you know what? I love Labrador, spent some time there. Most of my time was around construction. Understood the region a little bit and said, you know what, let's get some more engagement up there and move forward. So it was a great natural fit, and we've been a proud supporter of the NLCA, and I've been a proud member and a proud partner with those guys.
Are you still on the board now?
Indeed. So
Yeah.
I've actually moved to third vice chair. So I sit on the executive, which has been a lot of fun. It's been a learning experience, and of course we'll be looking for a Labrador director when calls for nominations go out for the upcoming board of directors for 23.
Stephen, a lot of great things happening in Newfoundland and Labrador right now. We just heard a presentation around green hydrogen, things that are happening. It's a game changer, what they talk about today, an absolute game changer. And Newfoundland and Labrador is a first mover, can be a global leader, and will be a global leader in this space. What's keeping you excited?
It is that breadth of, we've talked about mining, we've talked about oil and gas, we've talked about, the growth, and we've long been a natural resource driven province, but, fortunately or unfortunately, there's been some major challenges in our world over the last number of years, and to then follow the path and say, Newfoundland and Labrador, because of our deep water ports, because of our wind, because of our accessibility to land, because we have an able workforce who is, a well-skilled workforce, and because of the partnerships which we've been ahead with indigenous communities and things like IBAs that have existed and the progress we've made there, that Newfoundland and Labrador becomes a ripe place for development of things like hydrogen and wind energy and so on and so forth, to create that access globally. And it's very proud that we can be there to answer that call and to be ahead of that call.
Yeah.
Sean, I ask this question often to people that come on. Sorry, Steve, I ask this question to people often that come on the show. What is the secret here? What is the recipe? What is that secret sauce that we have in Newfoundland and Labrador that allows these things to happen?
Very good question. I think it's a mixture, they're probably very much the same. I'm just going to use different language, but a level of resiliency and a level of can-do. Right. It's, well, if they're doing it, why can't we? Yeah. Or that level of innovation that, how our province has developed to go from coastal boats to highways to, sometimes the accessibility challenges we've faced as an island, as a remote region, as Labrador, to say, you know what? If we can't get it from outside, we're going to solve it ourselves, and we're going to figure out how we're going to do it. And I think that resiliency and that can-do attitude has sort of carried us along and helped us grow and helped us innovate in ways that other regions just haven't.
I tell you, there's no better way to end that podcast than the words that you just said, because you are bang on in everything you say. Wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, Wabush. It's more than just a trip to Wabush, right?
Indeed, indeed. And everybody should make a trip to Labrador.
Everybody should make a trip to Labrador.
And I would say in the wintertime, because it's some of the world's best snowmobiling. So
and some of the best people, too.
Exactly, and the people are fabulous.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you for tuning in to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds.